From the House of Sungo, this is Gaytopix, the only gay source for hot topics and gay news. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, the only host to bring you the latest headlines and breaking news as it happens in the LGBTQ community. Welcome to Gaytopix, My Life. I've been doing this series now for over a year, and there's so many videos and blogs and posts, and diaries and podcasts and creations and thoughts, all visually on display. But I haven't, it's kind of like what I'm doing here with Gaytopix. As a dedicated journalist, I'm here to report the news. And as I continue on doing my investigative journalism, I'm beginning to find stories that feel compelled to post, but I have to actually find the authenticity of the story to make sure that it's not a rumor. Otherwise, it undermines my credibility as a journalist and reporter. So, given that, and then having to report live every single day, it is very difficult to do by myself. Moreover, IT-wise, as I'm speaking, I want you to actually visually see what I'm speaking of. That's one thing I've always been proud of myself. Ever since I was a child, I remember one of my teachers saying that I have a very vivid imagination on my report card. And when I write so that the reader is actually there going through the experience with me. And it's the same as me speaking. When I'm speaking, I want the viewer to actually see what I'm actually talking about and visually see it. And it's very difficult to do when you have very limited resources. We all have a team. That's how most people become successful. They have a team. Tom Brady wouldn't be the GOAT if he didn't have a team behind him, making him the GOAT. Same thing with Kobe Bryant. They have a team and they stick together. When I was in the Army, we had a team. If I would have been a police officer, I would have had a team of officers with me. You can't be successful without having a team of people supporting what it is that you're doing. I don't have social media. I'm not on social media. As a journalist, I can't be on social media because my past would probably come back to haunt me. Two, I can't say, when I'm not scripted or what it is that I can't personally express my opinion. Let me put it in that perspective. Yes, I can't personally express my opinion on something because the world is watching and it could damage my career as a journalist. And that's very difficult to do as well. When I was an adult porn star, I found it very difficult to make friends or engage in sexual activity with anyone because I would think that they were just a fan and obsessed with me and they were not taken seriously. And I think it was the same thing for me. Like, people would think that just because I was a porn star, I am nothing worthy of just having sex. And they never took me seriously and wanted to actually get to know me, but it kept me isolated from the public and society. And I have to stay invisible. But being invisible is the common pattern in my life. I've always felt like I'm in a crowded space, screaming at the top of my lungs and wearing the most fucking beautiful of fucking gowns made by a top designer, and no one sees me or hears me. I've always being invisible also has the, how do I say this? It it underlines with having no identity. You know, when you're invisible, you essentially are nothing. Are There's nothing to see. There's no identity. There's no person. There's no thing. You're invisible. So my identity has always been an issue because people have never accepted the fact that I'm a gay man. And even when gay marriage was legalized, I didn't think it would be this way continuing on with this pattern of behavior of people just not liking me or wanting to associate with me or giving me the chance that I need or working with me or conversing with me on a friendly basis or going out for a drink, together. I remember coworkers, back in the day, we would all go out on a Friday for drinks, and it was always fun. I remember going to these extravagant parties and with celebrities and stuff, and seeing everybody and saying hello and having my glass of wine. I remember catering events with celebrities and talking to so many people as I gave them foie gras, or hors d'oeuvres. It's just, I, you know what it feels like? I worked for AIG, the insurance company, one time, and this is when fax machines were big, and I had to fax a document to another company or a partner of theirs. And I was not aware of this because I had just started the job 2 weeks ago. So I worked in a mailroom. I had to wear a three-piece suit and work, in the mailroom and get dirty and dingy, and the dry cleaning bills alone were just so outrageous. But I had to wear a three-piece suit because that's what I had to present myself when I delivered the mail, and sometimes it wouldn't even be mail. It would just be the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, So I remember they gave me this fax. So part of the working in the mail, you have to fax things. You have to, send things package-wise and emails and stuff like that. And the internal mail as well within the office. So I faxed the document, but because I was so busy, I had forgotten to get the confirmation. Well, unbeknownst to me, as I soon later found out, that it didn't go through and they never got it. Apparently, it was to one of their multi-million-dollar partners, and because they didn't get it, that partner decided to part ways with AIG because of that piece of paper, or at least that's what I was told. So I was immediately fired. But to me, I always brought that into question because, one, why would you give a new employee something so, that someone senior wise should have been doing, or president or vice president should have been doing, or at least an executive assistant, that's something so important. And a new employee who's still in training, and is still learning things, why would you give them something so vital? Two, if you were handing over this document and this document was so important, wouldn't you have checked at a certain time, like because you told me to fax it at a specific time, in which I did, and when you didn't hear a word or something as an account executive or vice president, vice vice president, like I said, wouldn't you have checked to see if they'd received a document? It wasn't until they reached out to you to say they're no longer working with you or want a business relationship with you. Two, three, I find that to be so frivolous, because you didn't receive a document. Even with technology today, sometimes we send emails and you never get them, or text messages and we never get them. Yeah, we lie and say, yeah, I didn't get it, but sometimes you don't get it. One, because you're blocked. And two, technology is not all that accurate. There are some outages and mistakes, as we're still learning and it's still evolving. So those three indicate like there was something more to them letting me go. And I was kind of glad though, because as I said, I didn't like my cleaning bills, my dry cleaning bills, and it gotten really expensive for the salary that they were giving me. And the way those people would treat me when I would deliver the mail made me feel like I was like a slave, and yes, sir, here, sir, and it was really offensive to me, and it was not a job I would have wanted to stay at and kept. So I was kind of glad they let me go. But again, this is my life. These are actual true events. These are real life stories that actually happened to me. As I said, that story, it would be so much better if you can actually see it, you know? Like Harry Potter. Harry Potter was not that great. He was good in the books, and I enjoyed reading the books. In fact, I would prefer to read the books more so than watch the movies, but visually seeing the movie was a whole nother level, and it was like, yeah, I'm a fan now. We all love Harry, and like Harry Potter, I come from a family that didn't love me, and I mean that by his the uncle that he had to stay with, because remember he had to live under the stairs. So that alone is child abuse. I don't know how he was able to get away with that, but and then going to have his friends in school, it again a team. I don't have a team. It's just me, and it's always been me, and I've always been put in these situations where it's just me, and I don't know. Can you imagine? I remember watching a Law and Order episode, and Stabler, Detective Stabler, went into a what do you call it? Damn, I lost my word and train of thought. Forget Law and Order. This is about you. This is your life. Some people may find the things that I'm saying disturbing, so viewer discretion advised. But these are real life events, and these things happen to me. And this is the first time I'm actually speaking of these things, and I need to get them off my chest because I've been going through a lot, and there's nobody here but this camera. And this has been going on now for, there's over 300 files and unedited, and I want to put it out there, but I'm kind of intimidated and scared because it is my life, and my life has been very disturbing and hurtful. And I've only gotten to the part of my life where I've reached basic training. So I haven't even told you about being in the war and what I had to do. and coming home. Well, that's another thing about journalism. When you look, when you try to tell the story, you have to tell the story as accurately and as transparent and forthcoming as possible. And with doing that, it's making me more vulnerable. And I believe my vulnerability is my strength, but the things that I've been through are just so traumatic and painful. How am I still here? How am I still here by myself? What is my purpose? What am I meant to be? Am I supposed to go through one heartache and painful experience after the other by myself? And there's no one to live to tell. Well, I'm living to tell, but no one's listening or watching or knowing anything because I'm invisible. Like when I was blacklisted from the adult industry. I don't know why I was. I think they did it to me because I was so beautiful. And they did it because they knew that I would make more money than they would, and I would be more successful than they would. And more so, I think they did it out of spite and took away my fame. And it's okay. It's okay. It's okay because that's how gay men act. And there have been far worse things that happened in the gay adult industry. But yet, I don't know what happened to me or why no one refused to work with me. I can only speculate. And this is what I speculate because as the years have gone on, as you grow from a child to an adult, you look at things and when you look back at it at that particular moment, it's different. It's not what you remembered, and I look back at it now and like I said, it was very spiteful and very hurtful because I was hireable because the vetting process alone is immense. So the fact that I was beautiful, I already had the doors open for me and I've had previous work, so the doors should have been open, but the more I reached out, the more people just were not interested. That also shows the level of success I had because I was able to reach that particular celebrity or that particular star or that particular director or that particular editor or marketing rep. I was able to reach them. So that's why I believe it was spiteful. I keep talking about the gay adult porn industry because it was my highest income to date and I was very successful and I loved having an assistant and team of people working with me to make me beautiful and make me the person that I was. And it went even beyond that. It was doctors, and physical therapists and personal trainers and life coaches and people all on me to present Poppy Songo. And the fact that no one really ran with me on my journey of what would have been a highly successful career is really sad, you know. Just the fact that I'm not as successful as I once was is pretty sad. And I'm what you considered a legend, an icon, you know. So people probably laugh now that I just said that, but someone is a legend and an icon not based off of their work content, but the longevity of it. Like Michael Jackson was, because Michael Jackson's, not only was he the best dancer of all time, but he was the king of pop. He's been doing it since 1963 or 67, whatever it was, when he was in the Jackson 5. Aretha Franklin as well. They've been doing it their entire careers up until that point. So the longevity of it makes them an icon or makes them legendary. And it's just really unfortunate that that has really transpired in the way it did. I may never know what happened. Just like many stories that I've recently revealed, I may never know the real answers, but I can only tell you what I do know and what I see and what common sense is. Is it hard for you to understand me or comprehend what I'm saying? I find that hard to believe in anyone because I speak common language. I have a bachelor's degree in journalism, but that's it. So it's when you don't have the education, the resources, the money, the friends, or the family, you're forced into this place of loneliness and isolation and quarantine. Even being gay, like everywhere I went in my life, I was forced not to be gay. Even to this day, it's really why? Why? With the success of RuPaul's Drag Race and so many gay icons, like MJ Rodriguez being the first trans to win an Emmy. She can win an Emmy and you praise her for her role as Bianca, but you don't like me as a gay man who did porn and was in the army. it when I had my body was, I remember the doctor telling me I had 4% body fat. There was no fat on me. And he was blown away because he had never seen somebody with such low body fat, and I did that and I maintained that for years, in hopes that I would be a successful actor. And they took that all away from me. And I'm really hurt by that. That's why I keep talking about it. But it's also been the last job that I've held. So I haven't had sex since 2012. 2012. My movie with Antonio Biaggi was the last time I had sex. I've said that on Gaytopix. it's but I went 9 years in the army, but it's been beyond 9 years now. It just that was another reason why I got into porn was because I needed to have sex. And I wanted to, also show how I progressed in life and how my body was visually changing. And you can clearly see that in all of my movies. and I I'm I look back at them now and I can't believe how beautiful I was, and yet never been in a relationship, or never been in love, or never had any friends. Other co-stars would, be friends, and I was friends with them at one point, and they would all look out for each other, even money wise, and they all turn their backs on me. They all turn their backs on me. I don't understand. My family had done the same thing. I don't even think they are my family, but my family had done the same thing. My coworkers have done the same thing. My caseworkers have done the same thing. My psychologists have done the same thing. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. And I'm tired of being labeled as if there is something wrong with me. This is a stigma, stigmatization that needs to be addressed. It is a stigma that is putting me in a box and pushing me further and further and further away from the things that I need to do to have a happy life. And you also have haters. Haters, or stands, as I find out that they're not even called now. As I said, I'm not on social media, so I don't know any of the terms or anything like that. But stands are people who just like stalk you and follow you. They could have been the ones who've been reporting me. You know, that's to have no visual presence. You have no identity, and Facebook had deleted my account, and I'm banned. I'm banned from a site called BBRT that's really famous in the gay community. I'm banned from working in any type of bar or lounge or club or event. People just don't like me. And sorry I had to take that. Just people do, is it worth like even visually seeing that? Like me taking a sip. Is it tea? What's the tea? you know, how can I be if people don't like me, then why don't you tell me like, okay, maybe you should do this or maybe you should do that to help me so you can like me. That's another thing that I question too, because if you keep putting me in situations that are really horrible and discriminating and dehumanizing and hurtful and traumatic, then how can you expect me to have a recovery or breakthrough, or talking to the camera is no different to me than being in therapy. I'm just talking, and I don't need to be paying someone $200 an hour. It really, I'm trying to. Oprah, where are you? Where are you? I feel there are people As a matter of fact, I should get up and go and look. I feel there are people listening to me. I can hear my neighbors, you know, and when they have conversations, so I'm wondering if they can hear mine. My neighbors don't like me. Nobody likes me. People don't like me. What is the matter? Stop questioning things, because then that's what's going to make people think that there's something wrong with you because you keep questioning things. But why should my life be this way? Why, should I not live life like every other person? Why should I not be who I am? Your identity, we all remember SpongeBob with his identity card. When he lost his identity, you really do feel like that when you lose your wallet. But more to the point, when you don't have an identity, you become invisible, and you are put in that box and you're left in that box. Dare I say you're someone who's been kidnapped for 40 years and left in this shed, chained up, you know, having to, forced to live that life for all those years, knowing you can't be happy. Sometimes that's what it feels like, and I still am here. I'm still here. And I'm still wondering why it is that people think you're crazy. People always have something to say. Always. And if you have something to say, be constructive with it. Like, don't just say things and disappear. I remember this high school friend of mine had to come back to see me, and it had been like 20 years, and she saw me and saw that I was, in this impoverished state, and took me grocery shopping. And I told her not to do it because I would never see her again. And she did it anyway, and I never saw her again. Someone else, when I was a teenager, offered to take me out on my birthday, and or Thanksgiving. I went over to their house on Thanksgiving, and I started crying because I was not only were these people like a family and having fun, and I've never had done that, but I would never do it again. And it, now you see that alone, it should raise a flag, right? You don't have somewhere to go on Thanksgiving or Christmas to celebrate the joyous or the magic and beauty in the holiday, and there's nobody there to celebrate it with. And even when I volunteered, because, they always say, if you have nowhere to go, volunteer, and it's always a good thing to do to volunteer. So I encourage everyone who needs to volunteer, please do so and volunteer at your local shelter. We can all use the help, especially during this pandemic. So definitely volunteer. But I remember wrapping those Christmas presents, and I love wrapping Christmas presents. But I remember wrapping the Christmas presents, and it would take us hours. Like one time, it took us 9 hours to wrap all of the Christmas presents. And then when we would deliver the Christmas presents to the clients, they would be so ungrateful, like, oh, socks again? Yeah, like I'm really going to read this book, and they always had some really negative things to say. And here I am giving you your Christmas present, knowing that I myself am not going to receive a Christmas present. So to me, that was like, whoa, like, I can't do this. Like, this is not how it should make me feel, and it made me feel more isolated because no one was actually going to give me a Christmas present, and they received a Christmas present. I know those clients have hard lives as well, but we all have a story, and this is my story. This is my life. These are things that have actually happened to me. These are real life events. All rights reserved. Remember, you're always in the mix with Gaytopix. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, the only host to bring you the latest headlines and breaking news in the gay community. Stay tuned for more Gaytopix My Life. I actually don't want to leave. I'm going to continue going on. Let me just take another sip. My mouth is dry. I want this to be as unedited and real and raw as possible because this is me. This is who I am. This is what people have done to me and what my life has been like, and it's a pattern of behavior that never seems to go away or that I'm forced to accept. When I was a kid, it was very difficult to even mention gay or even. I remember going to. I was young, so young. I was maybe like 8 or 9, and it was a construction yard because they were building a new building. So it was a construction yard across the street from the school. And I remember I was in. It was in elementary school. It wasn't junior high. It was junior high. I don't remember what particular grade, but I was in junior high, and the construction site was across the street from the school. And I went to the construction site one day, and a few days, because I wanted, and I started screaming at the top of my lungs and just kept screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming to make my voice deeper so I won't get beat up or bullied for having a feminine voice. It didn't work, so I eventually stopped because I still kept getting bullied, and. So I couldn't be myself because I was being beat up for being myself. Teachers and deans and everybody would told me to ignore them, but how can you ignore a fist? And then when you go to the police are no different. The police is, in fact, the same, if not worse, than the actual public, and the whole process of the system makes it even more hard on someone to be gay at that particular time. And I was scared. So I would walk a certain way, I would act a certain way, I would talk a certain way, because I remember it was on the you would call the hotline. You would leave a little intro message, and if somebody liked it, they would leave you a message, and that's how you would meet up. Damn, I'm so old. I remember making my voice so deeper, just so they can leave a message, and we can meet up and have sex. Oh God, I remember those days. That's so long ago. I remember having a beeper and standing outside on a phone, using a payphone, dropping quarter after quarter after quarter. I had the money because I worked at McDonald's. So I dropped quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter just to stay on the phone and talk with people from school and get the homework and stuff. And because my mother refused to let me use her phone, and I would try to sneak, you know, like my own phone and plug it in, and she would catch me, and the bills would come in and see that there was a different number there, and she would catch me, and I was always punished for even doing something like that. So I started to use a payphone, and I was on the corner, and those thugs and drug dealers or people who stood on a corner, because I'm from the hood, they would see me there, and they would stand there just as long as I was on the phone. And I know, as soon as I left, they went right up to that phone and literally took all the quarters that I just put in there. That's hood. I'm glad I'm able to make a mockery of it, and I'm, kind of humor in the pain and hurt. And I guess that is the solution all in itself. There's always fun in humor, and it's always a happy place, and I'm glad I'm able to do that and display that right now. But my leg is falling asleep. And I think I went on too far for today. I can't believe people think you're crazy. You're not. You're an average, old, ugly, old, lonely man. And why do you why do you hate something you can help? That's not working in public service. That's what that taught me. If you saw someone or an accident, you should be obligated to help. So if you keep saying that I'm crazy or something like that, or that I'm lonely, or I'm whining, or I should stop complaining about not having sex, or stop complaining that I never had a boyfriend, and allow me that experience. More so as a friend, you should be supportive to help me get that experience, and be judge of it myself. Like, okay, now I actually had a boyfriend thanks to my friend. He taught me a lesson as a friend you would do, and I don't like it. But that's never happened. I know plenty friends who hook friends up with their friends, and it's, at least back in the day they did. It just, people don't like me. Why? I'm so conflicted with that. I don't understand. I'm so. Why am I stuck here in this place? Why is God doing this to me? Why? I don't have an emergency contact. I am going through a lot of medical issues. You've seen that on Gaytopix. But the fact that, thank you for reminding me, you see that I talk, I remember things. You saw me on Gaytopix visually express why I was not at that particular hospital. The hospital for special surgery, the I don't understand why it, it needed to be 9 doctors that I saw and surgery was never performed. I was obviously a candidate for surgery, that's why I was seeing so many doctors, but none of them were able to alleviate the pain or help or perform the surgery. In fact, some of them have left the facility altogether and no longer work for the hospital for special surgery. It, the same thing at NYU. It just, I'm being forced to live this life. But the fact that I'm being forced to live this life is what's making it mental, I guess. And that's why people think that I'm crazy. Like, if I'm complaining that my arm is paralyzed, essentially, and I cannot move my arm, and you perform these mediocre tests and don't prescribe medication, how do you expect it to heal? I don't understand. you they took away my most beautiful asset. The healthcare system had took away my most beautiful asset, which was my body. So any chance of being successful now, I don't have. And it's another way of being put inside that box and or kept inside that cabin. Why are things like this? I could provide so much to somebody and be their everything, and because I have nothing going for myself, I would like literally grovel at their feet just for the fact that they're wanting to love me. But yet that has not happened, and it's very disturbing, and it's gone on too long. No, I can't do this. You were gonna cut it short anyway, right? I can't do this. People have devious minds. I get that. I get that. But there has to be some level of humanity in somebody, at least one person. People always have an ulterior motive. There is always an ulterior motive, and that's okay because I'm prepared for that. But don't ugh, don't pretend you like me or want to associate with me and be a completely different person when you're around different people or with people in most cases, you know, and expect me to trust you. It, I also know it's just your job. That's why you're doing that. So it's sad that I have to rely on those type of people to be an influence in my life. You know, creatively, there's so much, and visually, I want so much to be displayed. I want so much to be there for people to see, but I can't do it. I can't do it alone. I can't. It just, I know my story alone would literally be a series, a novel, a movie, you know, a mini series, a documentary. It's it has everything, and I'm not pretending. That's what's funny because the more I talk and tell my story to people and they don't believe me and listen to me, I get defensive and it makes me look crazy. Again, there's a stigmatization with the whole idea of you being crazy. So it's you have to say things a certain way or walk on eggshells and do things a certain way just to be, I guess, sane to the doctor. And he let you go. You know what killed Marilyn Monroe? We all know her mother was, was gave her up for adoption. Leave it at that. But her mother gave her up for adoption, and she grew up a lonely child. And she, when she went into the hospital for her mental distress, because it was, told for her to, her team told her to do it, her manager, her, agent, and the fact that she was doing so poorly on the movie, you know, her team told her to go to the hospital. She went to Harlem Hospital. And the fact that she went to Harlem Hospital and had the same type of experience that I did is very disturbing. Because it's been 20 years and it was very disturbing experience. But she was being forced without her, held against her will for that time, being with people who were not on mentally, on her level and were severely mentally in distress, mentally insane in some cases. And she wasn't. Was a minor case, and she's being put into that population, and it caused her to you know, be in a whole different set of mindset now. And I think to this day, that's what killed her and why she committed suicide was because she went into that hospital and they put her in the general population when she should have just been given some pieces of paper and told to come back to a therapist, after the evaluation. And they used to do that in jail too. Like if I had to say that I was gay, so they would put me in a different cell because if I said I was gay, I would get beat up in the cell. Or if anybody knew that I was gay, I would get beat up in the cell. There was one time I was in that jail cell, God, for so long, by myself. I think they just left me there purposely, because I was gay, but I was there for so long and it was very painful. But yet, it's a common theme that's happening in my life. It's just me. But in a jail cell, there's no TV. Or there's no phone, or there's no writing or utensils or anything like that. It's very, that would give anybody a mental breakdown. You know, I, serving your country in the middle of the sand. I hate to say it in that perspective, but again, I bring humor to this, and I'm very glad that I'm doing it all. I see now, I'm going on an hour, so I'm going to leave it at that. Well, I end on a high note, right? I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, the only host to bring you the latest headlines and breaking news in the LGBTQ community. This is Gaytopix, My Life. These are real life stories. These are real life events. These are real stories that actually happened to me. Some people may find what I say disturbing, so viewer discretion advised. All rights reserved. Again, this is Gaytopix, My Life. I'm your host, Kenny Cruz, the only host to bring you the latest headlines and breaking news as it happens. Remember, you're always in the mix with Gaytopix. I'll see you soon.